Interphase Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Dagger Law, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.
Hi, and welcome to Fairfield Today. My name is Rick Schneider, community educator with Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, and we are recording in front of the beautiful Pickering house on a beautiful morning. It's going to be a good show today, Denise. We have somebody I've known for quite a while as our guest. Would you mind introducing her?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Rick. We have Kristin Glasure, and she is Vice President here at Fairhope. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me today.
And I was going to ask Kristin, I have a good memory, it's just short. I was going to ask Kristin how long she's been here, but I have a form right here when I got my first assignment as a volunteer on March 27th, 1997.
Oh my goodness.
So you've been here a while and you had a little break in between?
I did. So right out of college, I started with Fairhope and was the social worker for Fairhope. We had maybe 30 patients in a different building, of course, and I helped visit patients with the bereavement part of Fairhope service, and also the volunteers, and in came Rick Schneider.
Yep, she was my first contact with Fairhope, and I do have the acknowledgement letter when I sent in my request.
You do. You kept that.
They're all framed, you have little candles in front of them. But you know, one of the things that make Kristin such an asset, and you as well, Denise, is you've both been in what we do in the homes, and you've had experience, and that really does help. So many of our management staff have either started, all of our staff have started either as volunteers or somewhere in the system, if you want to call it that. And I remember Kristin said, you know, we had about 30 patients and about 30 volunteers, and it was really nice for me to understand what we do because the volunteers really got involved.
Yes.
So, well, Kristin, what's your title now? You were the social worker, and
So by trade, I'm a social worker. Today at Fairhope, I'm working as the vice president, and I restarted here about 5 years ago, and Denise had called me and asked me if I would come back and kind of help things grow, and we have a great team here, so I stepped in and helped to oversee the social workers and the chaplains and just guide them and support them. And then shortly after that, I was asked to be on our leadership team and help with the daily ins and outs of Fairhope. And then after that, about 2.5 years ago, I was asked to take on the role as vice president, and so I've been working with Denise closely for that time. And we have a new social work manager and a chaplain manager. Currently, right now, I help with the bereavement team and then also our palliative program. So I'm learning a lot every day. I feel like I always do a little bit of social work. So I'm happy to still have my hands in that.
well, with our vice president and CEO on camera, I'm going to be very polite, very nice, and very supportive.
This will be the first time. No, just kidding. Don't do anything different for us. We know you. It's
so if
all
I
good.
look enthralled, you'll know
Yeah,
why.
okay.
Well, you had mentioned palliative care, you know, or what, I guess the first question is, what is palliative care? We are Fairhope Hospice and palliative care.
So palliative care is a very special, very important program, part of our Fairhope team here, and it's really medical care that just focuses on providing relief of symptoms and stress of a serious and chronic illness. So we've been blessed to be able to provide nurse practitioners to our community, to the hospital, and to really the same counties and areas that our Fairhope team provides care to. And what our goals are with our palliative care is just really to help someone who has a chronic serious illness, who we know at some point, you know, that may end their life. It may take on a different, turn for them, and so they may at some point need hospice. But in the meantime, this is just something that our nurse practitioners can help them through. We're going to help visit. We're going to help with their symptoms. And really, we can see them either once a month, or even every 3 months. What we're going to do is just keep that extra set of eyes on them, help them to kind of coordinate what they need. When someone's going through a chronic illness or a serious illness, there's a lot of parts, there's a lot of pieces, and sometimes they have a lot of admissions or trips to the hospital. sometimes they need a social worker to help just provide and kind of tie those pieces together with multiple physician visits, care in the home. Maybe there's food insecurities, things that they just may need that our team here, our palliative team, can provide. So one change that we've had with palliative is we do have our nurse practitioners that are available now 24/7. So it makes it very nice for those patients who are not appropriate or not philosophically ready for hospice but need that extra voice of kind of walking them through those steps. So our nurse practitioners are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do have our social work team that we utilize, and the nurse practitioners will call them out to kind of help them. And our social workers are available 24/7, not only for palliative, but also for our hospice patients. And then, of course, we always count on and rely on our chaplains to provide that spiritual support to our palliative team as well. That's such an important piece for our patients, our Fairhope patients, hospice, and also the palliative patients. So we try to just provide that all well-rounded care.
Well, you know, Denise, the program has really developed when I started, when Kristin and I started. Years ago, we had the palliative care, but we've really upped the ante on it.
We have. We really got the ball rolling, and, you know, I mean, it was more in the early 2000s when we helped Fairfield Medical Center help establish a team, and, you know, we had some comfort care beds there that patients could actually be admitted, and, you know, they could see a transition in that care. So, you know, they were going from a curative mode to more of a comfort mode, and so I think, you know, I really congratulate Fairfield Medical Center on taking that leap in this community to assist with palliative care, because really, you know, it's just changing that mindset a little bit. There's a lot we can do for patients. It's not like we're giving up on people, but, you know, sometimes the care shifts a little bit. But in palliative, people can still be receiving curative treatments. But they also use that unit for hospice as well, where they are getting more into the comfort. But really, palliative, like Kristin said, you know, is that supportive care. But what's nice about it, like she also mentioned, those patients that maybe aren't quite ready for hospice. Sorry, my mask is blowing away. It's a little windy, but it's nice out today. And it's always nice to be in front of the Pickering House, isn't it? This is a different view, so you may see our staff coming and going as we sit out here. But I think it's really important for people to have that interdisciplinary team approach. If they sometimes the only access they have to medical care on a regular basis is their physician, which is great. We want people to continue to work with their local physicians, but sometimes that extra supportive team is important, like you know, some of the psychosocial, spiritual things. And there's just something different about going into someone's home, because when we go into the home, you know, we can pick up on other needs that people may have. And so, you know, and that's also very comfortable for families. So the palliative care not only goes into facilities, but we go a lot into people's homes and help them. And we're kind of that voice sometimes between the physician and healthcare.
I was just going to say, you know, one of the things I've heard, and one of the nice things about palliative care is the nurse comes in on, we'll say, a monthly visit, and they might notice that now the housekeeping isn't being done. The dishes aren't getting washed when they used to be, and the little things a doctor would know, because when I go see my doctor, I got my hair combed, my teeth brushed, and I'm ready to go. She doesn't understand what I'm hiding. Doctor, I'm just kidding. But, you know, and that's one of the things of going into the home. We do see those things that even they might not realize that they're not doing anymore, and we can see it, and then we call the physician, as I understand it, if needed.
That's a great point, because I think something that is important to patients and families, they want to keep those physicians that they've known and worked with for years. And with palliative or hospice, but palliative, they can keep those physicians. And then one thing that our nurse practitioners have really worked on is co-managing care for palliative with the physicians. And like you said, they're going to go to that home, they're going to see everything they need to see, everything that is a concern, a worry. They're going to be a little more open in the home, I think, sometimes than the physician setting. And our nurse practitioners, we send information and notes, and we make phone calls, and we keep those physicians up to date and informed about what's going on with their patient. The other thing I think that's really important to talk about is, you know, physicians have a really hard job, and for them sometimes I think it's very difficult for them to have that conversation with a patient about just where the trajectory of their disease and diagnosis is going. And so a lot of times those physicians will reach out to our nurse practitioners and say, you know, I just need a little help. Can you go see this patient? Can you kind of talk to him? Can you see what we need, what's best for them? So Our team does a really great job of that. We have 5 nurse practitioners right now that we use. They cover at the hospital. We do see patients at Fairfield Medical Center, and then, like I said, we cover patients, in Fairfield County and surrounding areas. So,
And Denise, one of the things that we can help physicians is they're trained to fix, and we've had all of our staff have been in the curative field in one area or not, but we can talk to the family, and I've been to consults, and it's really interesting. They don't tell them anything. They lay it out and let the person make decisions, and we're in no hurry.
Right. Well, and I think, as you mentioned, sometimes those end-of-life issues can be difficult. I mean, it's even difficult sometimes talking to your own family about it, because you have that special closeness, and our physicians in the community develop that relationship with the patients and families, and it's hard to have those discussions. So we encourage them to reach out to us, and one thing our nurse practitioners and our social workers are great at is talking about those end-of-life wishes, or if someone gets to that point. Certainly initially that's probably not part of the discussions, but certainly part of the plan of care, and discussing the goals of care. What do you want as your disease progresses? Because oftentimes patients that are referred don't have a curative illness that can be cured, but can sure have a lot of support. Now, we have had patients with cancer that have gotten better, and that's great, but we're there to still support them. So that physician relationship is so important, and whatever we can do to help our professionals in the community, of course, and the patients and families, that's what we're here for. So we're always looking at new ideas and programs, to help people.
When you mentioned that, I just got to thinking, years ago when we were, my wife and I were talking to our investment banker, and we were talking about, okay, how long do you expect to live? I go, forever. And he was saying, we need to balance what you want to withdraw from IRAs and things based on how long you think you'll live. And I still like that forever idea. And I tell people I'm going to live forever, and so far so good. I think I've got it.
So good.
But the fact was, I had to face it. And, and it was, even though working here, I had to face it. It was just a whole different ballgame.
I think something that was important that I learned from day one, probably the first time with hospice and now the second time, is when you're meeting with a family or you're talking to a patient, ask them, just like Denise said, what's most important to you? And you're going to get a whole lot of different answers.
Well, yeah.
And a lot of times it may be, I want to get better, I want all the treatment I can, and sometimes it's just, I just want to be home. I don't want to make these trips back and forth to the hospital, and so it's about comfort, but it's so important to just ask, what's most important.
And that's a great example, because we're in front of the Pickering House, but if you look in the background, kind of over the hill, you can see the Anita M. Turner Center. And what you said, Kristin, is a perfect example. We had, and we really don't tell the story a lot about the Grief Center, so just as a little update, Anita M. Turner was cared for by our hospice program, and the family said we could, tell the story, so we have permission for that. But her goal was to get home from a nursing facility to her home at least one more time, and our staff were able to move heaven and earth and get her home to her private home so that she could be there for a while. Ended up going back to a facility, but she really, really appreciated that so much that, she left us at her will, and we were able to have that seed money to build the Anita M. Turner Grief Center. So, those kind of things, we're not expecting that, of course, from people, but it just tells you how important that is, because we didn't know her prior to that, but, it meant so much to her to have her wishes come true. And whenever we can do something like that, we do. Well, and they didn't come to me ask permission, they just did it. Our staff are so good, and they're really, they really want to help these patients and families, that they just said, well, what can we do to help her achieve her goal? And so,
well, so many things I've experienced here is when the staff just decides to do it. They know, we're big boys and girls, we can do that, we don't have to ask permission. And you were talking about things just happen, and one of the idea that really pushed the Grief Center is people would come up to the Pickering House for grief counseling, and they couldn't come in. Just the memories and the feelings of coming in hadn't settled down, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And so we're still on campus. It's a little bit down the hill, not in plain view, and it has really been a benefit for us.
Well, it has. And the thing is, people really don't want to go where they have the loss to grieve. Like you said, it's just too hard sometimes to walk in. So to have, we call it a happy place because no one's ever died there. No one's been cared for medically there.
Yeah.
But it's a place that's, we have 38 acres here on the site of the campus of the Pickering House here. And so people can actually walk, the grounds and reflect. Oftentimes before COVID, we had our grief camps.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those parts of those were outside to enjoy some of the natural beauty. But all of the grief rooms that we use for support or even education all face the woods. So they're not actually seeing, as you see behind us, cars coming and going and maybe ambulances coming. So to have that space that, people can just feel comfortable, not maybe be reminded of the medical part because they're trying to get through the grief and loss.
Yeah.
We're just very blessed to have it. So it's been an asset. Of course, we have other office space there as well, but it's been good to have that, to be able to give that to the community.
Oh, yeah. And, while we've been talking about palliative care and the grief, there's an area of our service a lot of people don't realize too much is the social workers and the chaplains. The social workers deal with even the grief afterwards. They're still in contact. We do have a grief staff. And then the chaplains even stay in touch, and especially even with palliative care.
I think sometimes with the social workers, there oftentimes is a lot of anticipatory grief. So people who are understanding what's going to happen with that patient, and so it is the grief that occurs before the death. And so a lot of times our social workers really have to kind of help families figure out a way to work through that. And oftentimes there's unfinished business. There's family concerns, family dynamics, things that need taken care of. And our social workers start that process and work with those families, but a lot of times those chaplains need to step in and really work closely with the patients to figure out what it is exactly that they need. What does their heart need? What do they need to feel at peace? And so all of those things are very important, and that's why Denise has allowed us and blessed us to have social workers that are available and chaplains 24/7. So that not everything happens 8 to 4.
Yeah.
So if
4 to 8.
Yep. So if there's something at night that needs taken care of and addressed, then our staff are there for them.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
no, remember you're the boss.
I'm the guest today, so okay, I get to talk. Whoa. As you talk about that, we didn't really mention, but our physicians are available 24/7, and you don't really find that all the time. And they really are available. They rotate, and so they round at the Pickering House every day, and so they're here for patients here, which is really not always normal in an inpatient setting in hospice. So we're glad that we have that, but then we also have them available for our staff.
Absolutely.
And our nurses call them often on the weekends, at night, because we don't want our patients to wait. We don't want them to be uncomfortable, whether it be palliative or hospice. They can assist the palliative care nurse practitioners. And then the pharmacy. Pharmacy 24 hours a day for us for consultation. So any staff member can call our pharmacist 24 hours a day. And our group will answer questions, because sometimes, like you said, things happen in the middle of the night. We've got people that, 2 in the morning, they need something. If we don't help them, they're going to have to go to the hospital, and oftentimes that's not what they want. They want to be cared for and comforted by their families at home. So I always say we kind of move heaven and earth to help people, don't we? But it's a team effort. Everyone's working together.
And when you're saying that, what's popping up in my mind is, from the minute I started here, was I never felt alone. Not only, we don't ever want our patients to feel alone. If they need someone, we're there. But as managers and leaders and people that guide our staff, I've never felt alone. If I need something, if I have a question about how things work, I can call Denise. The physicians are available. So, I think that's so important to realize, is that we have all the support that we need too.
Well,
Absolutely.
They always say action speaks louder than words, and Denise's office, CEO, is right at the employee entrance, and her office door is always open. So, you don't have to say anything. There it is. It shows.
I thought I was sitting by the employee entrance so I could sneak out and nobody find me, but it didn't work out that way. When we built the Pickering House, they were like, "We'll put you right by the exit
unintended
there, so
consequences.
you can come and go." It does not work. No, it's all
backfired.
good. No, it backfired. No, it's good though, because I want to be present for people, and so we do make an honest effort to be available for everybody.
And Kristin brought up such a good point that nobody is alone here, and sometimes if something happens, we all pitch in. And one thing it's very related is we had a man on service, and his son was so proud of his military service, and he had found out about our military pinning, We had the pinning, and several days later, his dad died, and he asked if we could have a couple of employees escort the body after his dad died. It was flag draped back to the hearse. And every single employee in the Pickering House, and I think the Grief Center, the hall was lined with people. Everybody dropped what they were doing and came out to show honor.
That was really a touching moment when that happened.
Absolutely.
It was so silent and just very, it was just really important moment for the family, and I
Yeah.
think
Very
Yeah.
honorable, really, you know, to really honor that person. You
Yeah,
know,
it wasn't.
I'd like to see us do that really more. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it was unpretentious. It wasn't dramatic. Wasn't
Right, it
anything.
was just-
Everybody
it was just
quietly
there.
lined up, and they were quiet after it happened. I mean, it was just a show of respect, spontaneous.
Well, we really haven't talked much about our veterans program.
no, we haven't.
But I know that, you know, we actually started the veterans program years ago with a couple of our volunteers. So like Rick said earlier in our program, so many things were started here by volunteers being involved. Even some of our staff hired from the volunteer pool. So, but we had a couple veterans help us just really brainstorm and find ways to honor veterans that have served our country at the end of their life, because many times we find that maybe they haven't had that honor or been honored or thanked for their military service. So we asked them on admission if they would like to have, you know, an honor or a pinning for that. And so, just as we said before, it's always up to that patient family, their journey. So I've kind of turned that over the years, and we work under National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization has a veterans program that we follow some of the guidelines. But I know you've been really working very closely with that, Kristin.
So when I started about 5 years ago, Denise and the volunteers had really taken a hold of that and started that whole process. So when I walked in, I kind of just grabbed the parts that they already had together, and we worked with what's called the We Honor Veterans program. And really what that is, it allows us a time and a chance to, like Denise said, honor those veterans who have served, who have never really been recognized for their service. And our social workers and staff did just a quick survey for every patient, asking them if they did serve in the military and if they would like a pinning. And in the beginning, you know, not a lot of them knew what that really meant. So it started out, just a few of us would come down to the Pickering House, and what that entails is a person who has a veteran in their family can present a proclamation to that patient. And then what we also do is we pin them with a American flag and also a pin representing their branch. We place a flag outside on their door, and it's a really, like Denise said, honorable presentation to them, and we thank them for their service. Anyone who's there and who is in the room with us doing the presentation will come through and thank that patient for their service. So it's been interesting to kind of see over the years how it's evolved. Right before COVID, we had actually a volunteer pool, so that we were able to make a phone call to our volunteers that would say, we have a pinning here at the Pickering House, we have a pinning at a nursing home or at a home, and they would just gather. I mean, our volunteers would gather. Sometimes we'd have 2 or 3, sometimes we would have 5 or 6 or 7. And also the nurse or the chaplain social workers if they wanted to be involved. But what I found is it is extremely emotional and just something that is a real privilege to be a part of.
It's spontaneous, and you mentioned thank you. We had one we did in November. We have the facilities, and a man came up afterwards. He was a Korean War veteran, and he said, I have never personally, somebody looked me in the eye and shook my hand. He said, I've been to speeches, parades, and thank you for your service to everybody. Not once had they done it for me personally. And you talk about different areas. We do it day or night, anytime, any place. And I remember we had one late in the evening. It was way down on the bottom end of Perry County, and it was just the spouse and I think his sister. And Kermit, our chaplain, was there with me doing the pinning. And she said, I can't believe this. I can't believe all this effort put into it. And for us, it wasn't an effort. They said they have a pinning, we went to it. But the impact of giving her spouse the respect, she just could not believe it. And they are simple. I know we were one at one of the facilities, and we had about 20 people. We were all the way down the hall. We almost had to do 2 pinnings so everybody get to see us. Okay, get back there.
I did one of the first ones, and I really wasn't expecting to be so overwhelmed with emotion. But I knew my daddy was just looking over me, and I could not cry during the ceremony, even though there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Yeah.
I'm like, to honor him, being a daughter of a Air Force man, I felt like I had the strength to do it, but afterwards we were all just very emotional because, really realize how much that impacts you. And so I think that's part of the reason that the veteran volunteers had someone that was involved with, a veteran or something to present it, because they know that you're going to have that emotion and that sincere gratitude for their service.
Well, and one of the things, a spinoff, they get to say what they did. And we had one man here in Fairfield County that guarded the Enola Gay before they dropped the atomic bomb. There are so many people that were involved in history right here. I'll tell you what, we could make this an hour show.
We could.
I think we're going to have to skedaddle. And Kristin, I want to thank you for being on. It's been a great, great time. I've really learned a lot.
Well, good. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, sure. And Denise, I guess we should probably give out the contact information unless I forget.
Absolutely.
And that's my job. Sorry, but
okay, that's okay.
740-654-7077, 800-994-7077, or www.fairhopehospice.org. And we are Fairhope Hospice Palliative Care. We are the home of the Pickering House. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Interphase Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Dagger Law, and the Frank E. Smith Funeral Home.
The moment that you're told that you have cancer, so many things were going through my mind.
I had this pain that kind of doubled over, and FMC got me the help that I needed, so I ended up surviving.
Fairfield Medical Center has helped me get through what was the hardest 6 months of my life.
When I first came to Fairfield Medical Center, she was probably having an allergic reaction. They saved her life, and that's why she's here today.
Dagger Law has been part of the Lancaster community for more than 110 years. This is where we live and work. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and all around town. We consider our clients as friends, and we walk alongside you through challenging times. Whether you're a growing business, a changing family, facing litigation, planning your future, or dealing with land issues, we're right here. We are local. We are trusted. We are experienced. Dagger Law.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
We were retiring from Tucson, Arizona, and we made a retirement trip out around Ohio, having decided that's where we wanted to be. And we came across this town called Lancaster, and we fell in love with the downtown area where the fountain is and the memorials and the flags and all this stuff. And we looked around and I said, there's our bank right there.
There's something to be said about a community bank in your hometown.
Right. If you live in the community, you should do business in the community as much as possible. So it makes sense to bank with the community bank where you live.
Fairfield Federal is the bank to be at. If you live in this town, or any town actually, you want to bank at a local home bank. And the employees are happy here, they're conversant, customer service is through the roof. There's nothing more you could ask for.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The Frank E. Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. respect for tradition, regard for change.